Two, one. Okay. Hi, this is Bobby from brewhardware.com with a quick intro video for our new grain ordering tool. In the past, we've cataloged our grain offerings just like every other product on the website. But unfortunately, because we sell the grain in both pounds and ounces, we've had to have a lot of repetitive entries into the system, and it wasn't very efficient to add a lot of different grains to the cart all at once. So we developed a new tool. If you go to Ingredients, Grain Batch Builder app, and you can see that a table has been displayed here. This table or spreadsheet is displaying all the different grain types that we offer right now, and it's broken up into a couple of different sections. You'll see base grains, and then as you scroll, you'll see other headings like medium toasted malts, smoked grains, dark roasted malts, and so on. So the left-hand column is the product column, and those are all the names of the different grain. And if you aren't familiar with the name of that grain, you can click on these. They're all links, and it will take you to a new page where you can read more descriptions about those different grains. Then there's also the pounds and ounces columns. It does give you a real-time stock quantity of each of these increments, as well as the price per unit. So 200 pounds of two-row brewer's malt is in stock at $1.10 per pound. And then there are 779 ounces at 7 cents an ounce. And then the quantity field on both of these pounds and ounces is the one place you can actually modify. So you can enter like 10 pounds and 8 ounces. And you can see at this lower dashboard here, it's keeping a running tally. So there's 10 pounds, 8 ounces total, and then at a total price of $11.56. And that'll keep updating as you add additional entries into this table. Now you're going to fill up the quantity fields for all the different grains you want to order, and then you're going to use the add to cart button to push it all into the cart in one shot. You have to know one thing though, is that the options in these drop down boxes must be selected to tell us what to do with the grain. Are we going to combine all the grain together in one package? Are we going to run it through the grain mill? How fine of a crush would you like? And so on. So I thought we can run through two typical scenarios so that you can understand how to fill these optional fields out properly. The first example I'm going to go through is a customer who owns their own grain mill, and they like to stockpile a bunch of different grains to have on hand for impromptu brew sessions or like on-the-fly recipe creations. And typically they're going to want us to keep all the different grain types separate and not run them through the mill before we send them. So they want to have segregated bags that are left whole. So let's just go through and just add a bunch of different grains to the shopping cart all at once. So let's just go like 20 pounds of the two-row, let's say 15 pounds of the Maris Otter. Let's do 5 pounds of German wheat, and let's do 10 pounds of Pilsner, and maybe we'll do 3 pounds of white wheat. Okay, so you can see there's a total of 53 pounds and no ounces, $65.85. Okay, so the two important things to set here in the grain milling option, we're going to select leave whole. And under the grain batch grouping, we're going to select keep separate from all others. And so what this does is we will not put the 3 pounds of white wheat into the same bag as the 10 pounds of German Pilsner or the 5 pounds of German pale wheat. So all of those different grain types, the unlike grain types, will all be segregated in their own bags. And because of the grain milling option, leave whole, we won't run those through the mill. Okay, so let's add that to the cart. We're going to click that button down there. And because this is running a script, you're going to see that it takes a couple of seconds for all of those different grains to get populated into the cart. You know that it's done once the pop-up cart has stopped flashing. So we can actually go into the regular shopping cart by clicking the shopping cart icon up in the upper right-hand corner. And then we can just scroll and look and see that all of those different grain increments were added. The 20 pounds, 15, 10, 5, and 3. And if you fill your cart up with a bunch of different things and you just wanted to verify what kind of options you set, you can select the view list of options and you'll see a pop-up window, and you can just see here that the grain milling option was leave whole, and grain batch grouping, not a batch, bag all grain types separately. Okay, so now we know we did that correctly. I'm going to empty this entire cart, and then we're going to start talking about the second scenario. We're going to go back to ingredients, grain batch builder app. Now the next scenario is going to be for the type of customer who wants to order a batch of grain to make a batch of beer. And this would be pretty typical if you found like a Beersmith Cloud recipe, or you're trying to duplicate a recipe that you found in Zymergy magazine or something like that. So let's just go ahead and start adding some grain into this ordering table. Let's say that we're going to use 10 pounds of the 2-row brewer's malt. And let's say we're going to put a pound of Vienna. And let's say we're going to put 8 ounces of white wheat. Okay, so now that we can just see again, we got 11 pounds, 8 ounces for a total of $12.79. Now this customer in our example here does not have their own grain mill, so they want us to mill it for them. And there are a couple of options here. One is mill normally. This is if you have a perforated false bottom in your mash tun, or if you're using something like the Mash and Boil or RoboBrew all-in-one type brewery, Grainfather, and so on. So mill normally is appropriate for that. If you're using a fine mesh bag, like a brew in a bag type of process, then mill extra fine will have us adjust the mill extremely tight, and you'll get a much finer crush. But for this example, let's select mill normally. And then because this is the first batch of grain we're going to be adding to the cart, we're going to select mix together with batch 1 under the grain batch grouping dropdown. Okay, this is a relatively arbitrary selection. We could have selected batch 4 if we wanted to, but because it just makes logical sense to say, let's label that batch 1. Let's go ahead and click on add to cart. Again, a few seconds of time will pass before it's all finished. It's not flashing anymore. So let's click on the cart icon on the upper right hand corner, and let's just verify. You'll see that the 10 pounds of 2-row, 1 pound of Vienna, and then 8 ounces of white wheat malt was added. Again, we can click on the view list of options, and we can just verify that the grain grouping says mix together with batch 1. Okay, so all of these grains will be measured out into a single bucket, and then will be run through the grain mill on a normal crush and put in the same bag. And we'll write on the side of that bag batch 1, assuming that you have multiple batches in the order. So let's continue on with that example and just say that we're going to create a batch number 2, because the customer wants to do 2 different beers before they have to order again. So let's go on to our second batch. Let's just say we're going to throw 12 pounds of Maris Otter in there. And let's scroll down. Let's say we're going to put a pound of Victory. And then we're going to put some caramel malts in there. Okay, let's say 1 pound and 8 ounces of Crystal 20 Lovibond. Okay. We still want to have those run through the mill before bagging them up. And then under grain batch grouping, we're going to mix together with batch 2. This is what tells us to segregate this batch of grains from the first batch that we added to the cart earlier, because when we receive the order, we're just going to see a big list of different grains at different quantities, and the optional feature tag will show us batch 1 versus batch 2. So that's how we know which grains get mixed with which batch. So mix together with batch 2, and we're going to click add to cart. A couple of seconds, let that script run, and it looks like it's done. We can close this and look at the cart. All right, so we see both batches of grain are all in the cart. You can click on any particular grain just to verify you see that this one is mixed together with batch 2. All right, and that's how you use the grain ordering application to push a lot of different grains in increments. For example, in the previous method, you would have to browse to the Crystal 20 pounds and put 1 in the cart, and then go and browse for the ounces increment and put 8 of those in the cart. So you can see this is much better at saving time and getting all those grains in there quickly. All right, so if there are any questions or feedback on the ordering tool, please email us at info@brewhardware.com, and I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Thanks.